We'll go ahead and get started. It's 2 minutes past. But good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this month's Department of Navy Oracle Technology Spotlight. For today's topic, we will be discussing how Oracle's modern data platform can leverage your data to innovate and drive mission outcomes. My name is J.R. Lazo, and I'm the Oracle Account Manager supporting the Department of Navy here at TD SYNNEX Public Sector. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. For Dawn customers on NMCI, we recommend using the Zoom link to view the slides. If dialing in, Zoom features would not be available. All lines will be muted during the presentation. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them in the Q&A chat box. We will address these questions throughout the presentation, but we'll also have a Q&A towards the end of the presentation. If you're having any technical issues, please message Felicia Cortez or the panelists via the Zoom chat. This technology spotlight will be recorded, and a copy of the recording will be made available next week on the DLT marketplace. If you would like a copy of this brief sent directly to you, please enter your email in the chat box, and we'll send you a copy once it's available. So, a quick review of today's agenda. To lead off, I will be providing a brief overview of the Dawn Oracle 3 Enterprise Software Agreement. Then Richard Qualls, Master Principal Solution Architect with Oracle, will review how Oracle's modern data platform can leverage all your data to innovate and drive mission outcomes. And following that, we will open the floor to Q&A. So a quick overview of the Oracle 3 Enterprise Agreement. In May 2023, NAVSUP awarded DLT an enterprise software agreement for Oracle licenses and services for a 5-year term. Authorized users of this agreement is the Department of Navy, including U.S. Marine Corps and approved contractor support, who have a valid SOUP letter of authorization. The managing activity for this agreement is PEO Digital Enterprise IT Strategic Sourcing Program, or PNW 29. At the bottom of this slide, you will find a link to the DLT marketplace, which is not only where this recording will be made available, but will also have information and resources on how to leverage the Oracle Enterprise Software Agreement. The Enterprise Agreement can be broken down into two parts: the Unlimited License Agreement and Agency Catalog. In regards to the Unlimited License Agreement, the Department of Navy has access to unlimited use of Oracle core technology licenses, including maintenance and support of these licenses. Core tech licenses include all versions of Oracle Database, including Enterprise Edition and Standard Edition, Advanced Security, WebLogic Suite, and database management packs. The Unlimited License Agreement is centrally funded by the Department of the Navy. In other words, what typically would cost customers around $60,000 for a single server license of Oracle Database is now $0 ITPR as part of this agreement. Navy users can obtain access to these licenses by submitting a MOA, a Memorandum of Agreement, or MOA for short, through the DLT marketplace. In regards to the agency catalog, Navy customers can procure most of Oracle's remaining software licenses and cloud services that are not part of the Unlimited License Agreement at a pre-negotiated discount via the agency catalog, which are fixed through May 2028. Authorized customers can request a quote for Oracle licenses and subscriptions available on the catalog by reaching out to the Navy Oracle team at DLT. As a reminder, per the Dawn CIO, the Oracle 3 Enterprise Agreement is a mandated source of supply, where all Dawn organizations and programs are required to use this agreement for their Oracle needs in order to achieve maximum cost savings through May 2028. This slide provides some key benefits of the Oracle 3 Enterprise Software Agreement. I won't read into each one, but there are a few I want to highlight. One of which was it improves the Department of Navy's buying and negotiation power for maximum discount and cost avoidance. It also provides a centralized ordering via the DLT marketplace and Oracle portal, which enables greater visibility, oversight, and control over software procurements. It eliminates the requirement for a justification and approval, or J&As for short, for catalog purchase at the ordering level. And the last key point I wanted to highlight pertains to licensing virtual environments. The Dawn Oracle Enterprise Software Agreement allows Dawn customers to reduce costs by using virtual processor cores as a license boundary for Oracle software license calculations. This slide provides an overview of what Oracle software is available on the Unlimited License Agreement and Agency Catalog. To reiterate, in order to gain access to the licenses available on the Unlimited License Agreement, the left-hand side of this slide, you would need to go through the mobile process via the DLT Marketplace. To procure licenses and services on the Agency Catalog, right side of the slide, you would start by reaching out to the Navy Oracle team at DLT. This slide goes into detail on who are authorized users of the Oracle and of the Enterprise Software Agreement. To summarize, all Dawn organizations or principal elements of the Dawn can leverage the contract except for when the Department of Navy is serving as a Department of Defense executive agent, an entity which the Department of Navy is serving as a DoD Combatant Command Support Agent, or Navy Special Access Program. This slide has a link to the marketplace and a screenshot of the homepage. If you need assistance with accessing the portal, please reach out to the Navy Oracle team at DLT. And with that said, that concludes the Department of Navy Oracle 3 Enterprise Software Agreement overview. Next up, you'll be hearing from Richard Qualls, who will be providing an overview of Oracle's modern data platform. Rich, take it away once I stop sharing.
Absolutely. Good morning and afternoon to everybody out there. Let me get the slides up here. Today we're going to be talking about the Oracle Modern Data Platform. So let's get started. So safe harbor statement, this is just informational purposes, not any contract or firm commitments for product releases. So first I want to start off by thanking folks for this history with Oracle and the Navy. The enterprise level of support really goes back to 2001, where we started this, providing an enterprise license agreement, enterprise capabilities for data management across the Navy itself. Goes forward to today, 2023. So we're working on 24 years of this enterprise. So thank you to all, and we look forward to this continued future with you. So this is Oracle's mission statement, and it really comes back to data and how we help you leverage that. So it's using that data, seeing data in new ways, discovering insight, unlocking endless possibilities. And that's what it comes to when you look at using data as a data platform, to go beyond using just as a simple database. So I want to talk about the Oracle data platform. And really, this is a way of rethinking. You know, you've got Oracle databases out there, this audience, the people you work with, successful implementations, small, medium, large, and enterprise scale out there, serving a mission purpose. What we want to do is kind of open the aperture up a little bit and start thinking about it as not just that successful database that you depend on every day for the mission, but starting to think about it as a true data platform and leveraging all the data that you've got out there, the data that you have, the data that you want, the data that your mission partners, analysts, the warfighter needs on those systems. And it's all about driving positive mission outcome. So it comes down to some fundamental questions when you think about data, and you back up a bit. Am I really exploiting the full potential of the data that I have on there? In knowing the scope, scale, and impact of that data, how could I leverage that more for mission success? Is my organization data-driven? And data-driven means not just starting with that application front or reports, but how can I really leverage that data in knowing the data I have or incorporating new parts of data? And that's how can I add new sources of data? Data is everywhere, right? There's some data that's not incorporated. It's in Excel sheets. There's data in other databases or data stores. How can I incorporate those data types for my mission without adding complexity and new silos? And then about those teams, what about the teams accessing that data? You know, it's always a very common challenge of people at the end of the day getting to the data they need because of security, access, or just a way to bring that together. So that's what we want to work at today. So really, a modern data platform is the notion of setting conditions for better and more efficient mission outcomes. We want that data when and where the mission needs it. We want to work at leveraging a unified data management across all those stores and data types for operational simplicity, but have that data in place. At the end of the day, what we want to do is transfer that into useful information at the end of the day, right? Speed and agility, AI is all over the place these days. People want to leverage machine learning, different analytics capabilities, but really transform that. And then we want that agility and speed to get to mission results. The Navy is on a mission to really work with DevSecOps and move quickly. And the Oracle Data Platform is a foundational capability of helping have that happen. And then we want simplification and security and performance in that world, leveraging automation, increasing performance. End of the day, ending up with a comprehensive, integrated, open platform. And you'll see this throughout the discussion. It's any data, any scale, across any place. And that's what a data platform is. So let's dig down a bit and contrast it to some of the competitors and other vendors out there in the world. So there are many, many single purpose solutions out there that are implemented in isolated ways. They're on virtual machines, they're on containers, they're on isolated systems. And that creates a real challenge for those different data types. You need those data types. The mission demands those data types, but it causes a lot of complexity, not only for management, but for getting the analytics that you need out of it at the end of the day, resulting in a complex integration and fragmented environment. At Oracle, when we talk about leveraging a data platform and leveraging the database, we look to simple integration and unified management of taking those multiple data types, multiple mission needs, multiple development styles, and leveraging that as a true data platform. So when we look at that current landscape, this is reality. We have a lot of database, data platform, data management, cloud sprawl. It causes that complexity. It is more expensive at the end of the day. So we have an opportunity here to leverage that relationship with Oracle, that enterprise license agreement, to help you standardize, to serve that mission customer at the end of the day, to serve those data types by standardizing and look for opportunities to standardize. And we have an ability to clean up a lot of this. There's been a lot of open source sprawl or other technology sprawls, and help standardize on the platforms you're running today so you get more value of that. And then once you do standardize that and you start leveraging it, you can actually look to consolidate and simplify where there's 3, 4, or 5 systems, possibly 2 systems, high availability, to simplify and lower your costs and really realize that long-term value. So let's dig a little bit deeper into the Oracle database as the foundation that provides those capabilities. And as I showed you Oracle's mission statement, this is that database vision. And at the end of the day, making it easy to develop and run modern apps and analytics for all of the use cases in any scale. So when you look at that data platform, looking to the developers, the analysts, the data scientists, or just your mission partner users at the end of the day, how can we develop and run those new capabilities on this platform itself? So this is how we deliver that vision and providing that simple platform for all your data management needs. First and foremost, it's that foundation on what was originally the Oracle database system itself. And these are characteristics we take for granted, but make no mistake, in a lot of the open source worlds or competitive world, some of these characteristics are not taken for granted. So we have those ACID capabilities of the data. When your data is there, it's consistent, it is immutable when it needs to be, it can be isolated, and transactions are durable. And then we layer on top of that these other features that we tend to take for granted is the high availability that we have in this type of a platform. The core security features, be able to label security, control data, track who did what where. Performance, highly scalable, either in a single system or horizontally across all of that. And then as we leverage new things such as multi-tenancy, allowing multi-model data to multiple users in that world. So that's that foundation that the database provides. Now, what we've incorporated is this notion of converging database and converged data types, where we take those complete and simple platform, where we take all those data types and we put it into the platform. As we go forward, that starts involving what we call autonomy, or our autonomous database, which runs in the cloud or in our on-prem cloud systems right now, and taking this automation. Now, in the cloud, it runs fully autonomous, right? Takes a lot of those management complexities out of that. But as we roll this down to on-premise too, we roll a lot of that autonomy and automation on-site, making your on-site administration easier as we go forward. Also, that Oracle database is available everywhere. It is not a proprietary one-stop, one cloud system. It runs on-premise, multiple clouds, containers, virtualization. So it is available where you need it. It can be on-premise in your brick and mortar. It can also be on the water, under the water, in the sky, or in space. So it is truly available everywhere. And I want to emphasize the security aspect of this because this is absolutely mission critical. And I want to highlight that these components are included not only with the core database, but these are components that are included with that Navy Enterprise License Agreement. These are sometimes called database options, which if you did not have that enterprise license agreement, you would have to pay for. And we want to make clear that these are included with that Navy ESLA, and you can improve your posture as you go forward. So for the database systems, we include database firewall, so you can put that on your front end, which does your controls for access, right? You can catch bad actors, you can keep bad actors from coming in and doing things to your data. We also have the ability with data redaction, so you can obscure the sensitive data out to applications. So an example here would be a string of numbers, and not all of that data is needed by that application itself, but there's 4 digits that are critical, and you can start implementing redaction in your operational data itself. Then certainly on our advanced security option, it includes transparent data encryption, TDE, and then we have data masking and subsetting, which lets you make multiple copies of data out there for your development and test worlds so that you can make representative data for your test cases, but you can mask and lower the security level of that data when needed. We also include database vault that allows the admins to do what they need inside the database, but then they cannot actually access the data itself. So they cannot see or change the data lowdown. Then a more advanced use case is what we call label security and virtual private database. That's where the database itself actually enforces row level security, and you can put permissions on the database objects themselves of who can read, write, see, or get masked representations of data. So you have very, very advanced security you can put into that data. And at the end of the day, we also have audit vault, which is included in that. So that takes all those alerts, reports, policies. It watches for issues. It does monitoring and auditing, and then stores that away from the system. So for your audit and security capabilities. So a very rich set of security capabilities in a data platform that, again, are table stakes and included. You don't have to add third-party products or be exposed where you don't want to be. So let's focus a little bit on what we mean by, that converged database. Was there a question out there? No. Okay. So again, when we look at a data platform, it's about supporting all of your data management needs out there and leveraging this notion of converged database. So certainly folks are using it for the relational part, but we have these multiple data types, and I'll dig down to a couple of these a little bit more. Graph data types, spatial, time series, key value, these multiple data types as we roll forward. And as Oracle rolls forward too, as these new data types come out, these are being included within that data landscape, which we move from, that relational database system to a true data platform where we can converge this. And when we say converge it can be in one single database, or again, you could have very small like containers with, a single graph database or a key value database. So the scale and the architecture ends up being at the end of the day, but it is built into that architecture. So for those of you that were not aware, that converged database, one of the first capabilities, we did have XML database capabilities, which are still there, but we've extended into making this a true document store. So you can have those JSON data types within the database itself and mix the use of those within the database for document types. So indexing, how you pull at it from SQL. And again, as I'd highlighted earlier, you have this scale out with full ACID transactions, meaning when you write that document in there, it's not eventually consistent, or you may not lose things. You have those core capabilities of security and ACID capabilities when you put the data within there, it is in the database itself. And again, you don't have to write custom code to leverage this capability. It is in the database. As we go forward, we have 23 AI will be our next release. We're going to be introducing what we call relational duality. So to the app developer, app user, at the end of the day, it looks like a pure JSON type database if they want it that way. Or to your traditional database user, it looks like a SQL user. So we'll have that duality so that it makes a more effective environment. And then we'll have such things as like this MongoDB API. So if you have apps or capabilities developed for Mongo itself, you can point and leverage this API. And then spatial. Spatial was a capability which used to be an additional charge item. So spatial data is about things, where they are, relationships, geographic data, lines, points, coordinates. All of that type of spatial data can be in the database itself. So for instance, if you had a logistics database, you can now start to put where are these things, or where do they move to, or where are events occurring. And then there's the components and APIs to actually pull from that. So you can create maps and visualize that, run those advanced analytics that you're used to running against traditional data, start incorporating that. So for instance, this failure rate in this area at this time, you leverage those spatial capabilities. And then you can get to be even more advanced and leverage things like there's an app that it comes with it. So not only do you have those APIs, but we have our spatial studio that we include. And none of this is at any additional charge, to where you can actually say you could do sonar data, right? Or weather type data and have those geographic, like the Esri, the mapping applications. You can have those basic applications. So this spatial capability can support advanced applications like the Esri mapping application, or you can start developing this in-house when you want those capabilities. And then graph databases are hot this day. So graph databases, if you're not familiar with or used them, graph databases are really about exploring complex relationships. You have an object and you have a relation to another object. And that's what's mapped out in this graph database. So the example here is showing there's people, they have a working relationship, they have names, and they have some sort of relationship. So in the database itself, and this can be, people, places, things, information, or knowledge. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just something that is related to something else. So you can start mapping out those relationships and see cause and effect. In the financial world, this can be used for fraud, people moving money around. In your case, it can be used at, mission intelligence. It can be used for logistics, pretty much any use where you have something where you want to store relationships and understand it, and you don't have to go to an external product or technology. And then secure files, for those of you who don't know about it, secure files allows you to really store any type of data within the database itself. So because if you use what's called blobs, binary large objects, this is an evolution of that to where we can store documents, image, audio files, pretty much any kind of file that you need to within the construct of the database. And when you've stored it within the construct of the database, it can be available with those other data types, or you can leverage technology of the database. Again, the security, putting those objects within the database itself, you have all the access controls, you have the high availability. If you want to get data from point A to point B, you can start using the native database technologies to move it, or technologies like our Golden Gate, which I'll talk about a little bit later, to move all of those different data types around. And I see Larry Mix has a question. If someone wants to unmute, or if Larry puts his comment in the.
Yeah, quick question. Is
Yep.
Oracle doing better of a job managing lob segments in 21?
Absolutely. So that capability has moved on, and in 23, it's moved on. It's evolved
Sorry,
even
23.
better. Right, the manageability.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So 21 was that interim release. 23 will be our long-term release.
I meant 23. 21 just came out of my mouth. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. So yes,
Okay.
23.
Thanks. Yep.
Absolutely. And again, for everybody else in the meeting, this is your meeting, not mine. So if you want to ask questions, please do. Okay. And I talked about some of the data types. Now I want to talk about in the multi-tenancy of how we work in the database. So for those of you who have not seen this, we actually have, as containers, Docker containers are to the world, the Oracle database has evolved to what we call a container database. So the container database itself is think of it as the kernel of the database. I'm running one database instance, and then I have this notion of what I call pluggable databases. And those could be like Docker containers, right? The pluggable database looks, smells, and feels like a complete database, but is an atomic unit that can be plugged into what's called the container database. So that means you can consolidate right off the bat by having, one single container database with multiple pluggables and different data types. And I want to make it clear too. So 19C at this point includes the ability to use 3 of those pluggable databases per container with no additional licensing. If you go beyond 3, there is a license cost, but this gives you flexibility to not only have different data types, but possibly you want to have different versions of your database. So very powerful capability. And these can be very, very light databases as well. So it lets you be portable, lets you rapidly provision and move these around, backup and restore. Right? It gives you a lot of capabilities. And I want to dig down into that a little bit more. And one use case, so not only do we have multiple data types that we want to store out there, but microservices are really hot out there as as containerization, making a more agile, more DevSecOps world, where I'm rolling out specific services and iteration of services. If you look to the right, pretty much every kind of a service is going to need data at some point. And a challenge there is having that monolithic architecture to where, okay, this example is here is having three different types of databases, right, to serve those microservices. It starts to become very cumbersome and complex. By leveraging those pluggable databases, you're working in that same construct. You have the lighter pluggable database that is associated with your microservice as well. So this you can then check that entire thing into your DevSecOps infrastructure as part of your whole microservices architectures. And then another function too. So not only can we store data within the database itself, but we have this capability called hybrid partition tables. And that's where we can actually store data using the partitioning. And partitioning is one of those capabilities included in the ESLA, where I can actually store data outside of the database itself. And this is one of the kind of, you could call it data lake or data lakehouse type of architectures, to where I have data that I want, within that database itself, partitioned in a way. But then if there may be data that I want to reference to or import into the database or just have accessible. It won't have the same, high performance of the database itself, but I can leverage object storage or file-based storage to be able to have tables that are outside. So it lets you grow a very, very large database with additional data when and where needed for that kind of data lake or lakehouse scenario. And I threw this use case in here too. The sensor data there are more sensors growing every day, and the rates that these come off. Sometimes people don't think of Oracle Database as the capability to be able to actually deal with this kind of data, because sensor data is very fast. It's very high volume of how it inserts within itself. We actually have the capability of using standard SQL inserts, and then how the pools and the processes are arranged to actually work with that. So the example here is, some sort of a sensor that streams off data. Could be electrical sensor, could be any kind of device, and feed those directly into the database, and the database able to keep up with these. And an example here is, 25 million inserts per second with 2 sockets of server, which is a relatively small server and a lot of data coming in there. So another place where we talk about integrating data, you can then leverage the time series analytics as well to start analyzing and working with those types of data types. So a non-traditional use case, maybe some people were looking at different types of technologies for this. This you can make use of today. And then blockchain tables. So blockchain, there are technologies where you implement entire separate, databases or types of systems for blockchains. Blockchains are just a data ledger that is made immutable. You make some sort of change and you roll forward, and it makes that data at that point in time immutable. There's a checksum. So if I update some sort of a value, we all know that value at that point in time is unchangeable. Instead of having to implement a separate type of a system for this capability, you could implement blockchain tables today within the database if you want some sort of immutable data category. Great for logging, great for intelligence or accounting use, right? And any kind of needs where you want to have an immutable data source. And that was something that was done in 21C, and it was backported in 19. Certainly will be available. And also, that's what I want to highlight today. So everything I'm talking about today is around 19C because that is your current version. We absolutely want to be looking at 23 Charlie, but I wanted to make this useful to people that are on 19 that are working their way forward to 23. Okay. So again, the first part of this is talking about really leveraging that single converged data source instead of, all those different data types. Serve the developers at the end of the day. They get those tools and APIs that they need to use. You can leverage SQL. You can also leverage the Microsoft tools to poke into the database as well. Full rich data developer services, I'll talk on in a moment. The analysts and the ops get what they want about this. Instead of querying across multiple data sources and trying to figure out how to integrate those analysis and those data points, you can go against one data source in that single queryable view. Really important there is also that security of being able to do that, of understanding when you come in to that data source. When you look at different types of data, especially in your world, if you bring different data types in one way, they may be at one security classification level. If you bring the data together in another fashion, it may be at a different level. So it lets you control that by going to one single source. Okay. And now we looked at the core database, I want to look at some of the capabilities that the Enterprise Edition includes that go beyond just those data types. So data guard itself, so availability of the data, this is a basic capability which is included in the system that a lot of the open source and other alternatives do not have out of the gates. So data guard is part of our maximum availability architecture. It's included, basic data guard is included at no additional cost. It lets you make that standby database to where you create your initial instance, you spin up another standby clone of that database, and you move the recovery data between the two. So it lets you stand that up. It's the exact physical copy, and it keeps you in sync as you move and the recovery data moves over. You can then fail back in between those two versions themselves. There's a broker architecture too that can control if you want to have multiple copies of that and multiple standbys and control that environment. Again, a very powerful data platform capability that is included as part of table stakes. And then Oracle machine learning. This used to be part of an additional charge item, which was advanced in analytics. So it's the ability to run machine learning algorithm within the database itself. And this is available in Database Enterprise, as well as our autonomous databases as well. So this is where the data within the database, there's a full set of APIs that let you run a series of algorithms against the data themselves. So you can run notebooks. So if you've ever seen the notebooks out there to query the data, or leveraging the APIs, standard SQL APIs, or a Python tool that I'll talk about in a moment. There's multiple ways of getting to that data and getting to that data in a controlled fashion. And then there's over 30 plus algorithms that are growing every day of machine learning that you can run at no additional cost, no additional add-ons. So some of these techs include classification of your data, regression algorithms, clustering algorithms, time series that I talked before, anomaly detection. Anomaly detection is very interesting. You can point it at a series of data and say, this is a normal behavior, and then it can start discovering this is abnormal type of behavior. And that can be finance type world, or even we've used it or in the jet world to where there were sensors saying that this sensor was about to go bad. So like I said, over 30 plus algorithms you can leverage within there itself. There's some links here to machine learning, but this is something you can go and start looking at today as it is included in the core product. OML Python. So Python is a very hot technology out there, not only in data science, but in the development world itself. So as I mentioned, there's multiple APIs. You can get to it via standard SQL. There's a whole library, the OML for Python, which lets you make native Python calls to the data in the database itself, leveraging all the database security technologies. So they can use Python, the libraries are there, the ability to quickly and easily use these algorithms within the database that I mentioned. There's also, this is unique to the OML Python, is what's called AutoML. And that's auto machine learning, to where one of the challenges of even just those 30 algorithms is, I have this data, I want to find out something about it, but what is the algorithm I can use? AutoML, auto machine learning, lets you point the OML Python at a data set, and it can start chewing through, exploring those multiple algorithms itself and saying, this looks about right, and it presents them to you. So it's a very, very powerful tool. Remember I said that the automation, right, the autonomous is making its way into the on-premise. This is an example of that type of technology. And that was new to 21C, which was backported to 19.5. And now some of the basic tools, SQL developers included within there. This is the development tool that you get into the database, a graphical. So if people like to use standard APIs or the standard, SQL command line, that's great. This is a graphical tool for those that like graphical tools. It's been included for quite some time, but I just wanted to highlight this as no additional charge. This is a function of SQL Developer you may or may not know of, but our data miner product. So not only can you develop by working with the database itself, but the data miner is a drag and drop tool, a low code type of a tool where you can actually start discovering your data, discovering data types and running queries, bring those different tables together, transform your data and start working through it, really start discovering the data. And then you can start building some data pipelines using this tool at no additional charge. And then data modeler is included as well. So a basic data modeling tool to create your logical models. But most interesting here is the SQL Developer Web. And so those prior tools I talked about required installing a tool on a desktop, having a user use that. We actually use the Oracle REST data services. You stand that up, and those tools, the SQL Developer, are presented as what we call database actions. So using those REST database services, people can now go use a web browser and actually start doing that kind of development and management without having to do those individual tools. And if you're a user of Oracle Cloud OCI, this is where our autonomous database has this function, which makes it very user friendly. And this is available now for on-premise uses as well. So you don't have to install those prior tools, but you can benefit from their functionality themselves. And then close on this. This is our RESTful database services. This actually lets you take that database itself and then expose the database objects as REST endpoints. So it lets you make those HTTP calls against that REST data service. The REST data service enforces all of the database security itself, and then it does the calls to the database on the back end. So again, if you're developing microservices, REST-based web services, this is very, very powerful for the web developer themselves. So there's a link for that at the bottom of the page. Okay. And then Oracle Apex, I understand our last session was on this and it was very successful, is showing this low-code environment. So this leverages those REST data services to implement our Apex low-code development platform. And for those of you, if you still have not looked into it, I would encourage that, because you can develop very, very rich capabilities, again, included with the base product itself. You don't have to look at other products. You leverage that in database security and running all of these capabilities in there. So if you've got people working with spreadsheets or some of those simple tools like that, you can even quickly import spreadsheets and translate those directly into Apex code themselves. And then the database itself, we have many, many drivers out there. So depending on what people are developing it within, we cover every language on the market themselves. So there's not a language that we don't cover through these types of capabilities if you need to provide those APIs out there. Now I want to touch on those where I started with the multiple data types and multiple development cases, touched on some of the core capabilities built into the data platform. Now I'll talk a bit about some of the add-ons that are capabilities that can go with the agency catalog. So as I'd mentioned, the database itself, it can scale vertically, right? When you have the threads and powerful machine, it can also scale out horizontally, cluster database, using our real application clusters. And this can be used for high availability. Instead of one single server as a point of failure, you can have 1 + n as far horizontal as you need to go with that for high availability. That lets you do things like online patching or rolling upgrades themselves. So the data platform does not have to go down. So again, it's scalability, it's availability. It can be implemented within the cloud itself. It can be implemented on-prem as well. And that is an agency add-on item. And then for getting data into the database, through the database, or integrating different data, we offer a technology called Oracle Golden Gate, which if you heard the terms called data meshes, data fabrics, but certainly data integration. Oracle Golden Gate platform is the ability to do real-time data synchronization between many, many different types of platforms. As you see, this is an example of taking those data platforms and making them into what we call a data ledger. So you can say, take data from a MySQL database into an Oracle database or any of these platforms, SQL Azure calls into Oracle, or if you needed to take that into, say, a Teradata system, a very, very rich platform of predefined capabilities to take data from the left. We have apps, multiple databases, or open source world itself, like Cassandra, integrating into Kafka, Connect, messaging infrastructures, Splunk. I know that's certainly big in the Navy. Being able to take those real-time data events and be able to put those in the database or even move those into other worlds. So say, for instance, going from Splunk into Cassandra or these different types of platforms. So it is a multi-platform, multi-cloud capability to move the data itself. We also have the ability to include what we call stream processing. So not only are we moving that data around, it might be a one-time move, it might be a continuous feed of move. If it's a continuous feed of data, we can actually do analytics on that as it happens. So we're certainly moving that data, but we're providing the mission with the capabilities to do real-time analytics on that data itself. And then I want to close. The other one I want to talk on is our Oracle Analytics server. So Oracle Analytics is available as Oracle Analytics Cloud in OCI or Cloud, or it's available on-prem or in other clouds via Oracle Analytics Server. So Analytics Server is the evolution of OBIEE, Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition. It's a complete platform for analytics. So for creating reports, creating dashboards, feeding data out. It can be used for visualization, right? Data prep. It is the full life cycle of analytics. So it's not just a reporting or dashboard tool, right? But it's a complete solution. So if you kind of look at the chart on the right, you can see we connected many, many different data types, not just the Oracle world itself, but being able to connect one time or multi-times, provide some data modeling. So you can start to model, what do I want to do with that data? Do I need to transform? Do I need to clean that up? Do I need to enrich it? Do I need to make automated data flows? Then there's a prepare step where you can start building your semantic models, building a catalog of what I want to do with this data. And this can be in the notion of you can have somebody that can do this on their own, like an analyst, or this can be produced for, say, mission users, finance or mission people that need specific dashboards or reports and control that. And so the data is prepared. Then there's ways of exploring the data, either data visualization on screen as you work through this. It has this great capability, natural language query and narration, where you can start typing in those sentences. How many of those parts are oconus in this area of that description, right? You can start using things like natural language, advanced analytics capabilities to get deep into the data. And then you can present that to the user at the end of the day with dashboards, reports. And again, all that comes back to that role-based security to be able to secure back in the database of who has access to what and where. And then enterprise scale. You can run this on one CPU or it can provide that full enterprise scale. So that is our analytics platform. So what do I want to close on too? Now I've talked about the data platform, establishing it as that base capability. Yeah, we had was there a question in chat there? Oh, okay. What I wanted to close on too was the release and support timeline. Again, this always refer to that MOS notes 742060 TAC 1. It'll provide the timeline. 19C is our current long-term release that will be available at this point with extended support out to 2027. In 23 AI, it is available in Oracle Cloud. It's available in our engineered systems. It is available as there is a quote unquote free version that developers can start to use today. So we'll be looking to the next announcement will be when that's available for use on-prem. But you can see that it is released now. It is a long-term release. So 21 is what we call an innovation release. As we move forward, you'll see long-term releases and innovation. Innovation releases are always intended for you to kind of try out those new features, but not necessarily use them in production unless you have to, so you have a mission dependence on that. So 23 AI is the next thing. Oracle Cloud World is coming up very, very soon. So we expect a lot of announcements about that. And when we have those dates, you should certainly start thinking about 23 in your roadmaps and as you go forward of a placeholder of when that's going to be in there. But it's time to start looking at that now. So with that, that is really the content that I had for today. Talking about the data platform, as I said, 23 will be our next term release. And we will have a future session to cover this because it is got a lot of exciting innovation happening in there. So I thank you. Turn it back over to you, JR, for questions.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rich. We'll give it another minute to allow for any questions to come in. Don't have any currently teed up right now, but we'll give it a minute for everyone to ask their questions or type their questions if needed.